Hi everyone, welcome. Join me on this Manic Monday and let's see where the conversation takes us. The first thing I want to tackle today is Andrew Lowney or Loney, whatever he calls himself. You know, I was so nice to actually apologize because at first I slagged him off for going so hard on Andrew and Sarah. I was so disappointed and angry when I saw those emails from Sarah and Andrew to Epstein. They straight up lied about everything, and because of that, I finally believed that they knew what Epstein was up to. But I'm going to likely disappoint you and tell you that I have once again changed my mind. I think Andrew Lowney's 2 Drops of Fame, which his book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York had brought him, had gone straight to his head or something. All these interviews and the accolades were seemingly a little too much for him. Doing what I do, and I'm sure almost every YouTube creator will say the exact same thing, no matter what genre you choose for your channel. You are going to come across some very, very nice people, some utterly normal people, but you're also going to come across some very, very nasty people and some great, great, crazy people. Some who are desperate for 5 minutes of fame or desperate for a bit of attention. You can imagine whatever you can imagine, and guaranteed we shall come across it. Now, this is a huge lesson. God alone knows. Just when I thought I'd seen and heard it all, something else will pop up, and one has to be so terribly careful or terribly lucky not to land yourself in trouble. You plainly cannot entertain each and every story which comes your way. If it sounds a little too good, or maybe even too bad to be true, then it likely is. And my advice would always be to usually rather sacrifice a story than have a couple of sleepless nights or lose your channel or get involved in some legal dispute. However, Andrew Lowney obviously does not believe in that principle. And just like someone in the comments said, leave the Kris Jenner party story alone, it is becoming boring, I want to say the same to Andrew Lowney. I think if I read the threat, the author has warned that there are many more stories to come about the former prince. One more time, I'm going to send him a virtual punch on the nose. It is clear that every person who has come into contact with Andrew ever in his life, whether they scrubbed his toilet or were security for him or even dated him, everyone has something to say. Andrew Lowney himself says, I'm hearing from protection officers, diplomats, people in the Navy. I'm getting 2-3 people a day telling their own stories of working with the royal. And yes, you guessed it, Lowney is now working on a sequel called Untitled. Oh, wow. What a money spinner that will be. I wonder who will be getting a cut from that one. Just saying. Hint, hint. Anyway, I have always said this, and I'll say it again. And this time, I'm saying it to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, just, to make the distinction clear. Not fighting back does not make you a bigger, better man. It makes you look weak and guilty, or both. I'm sure some of the stories are indeed true. The man is 65 and had been single for most of his life. A prince, a queen's son, etc., etc. Goodness, I have seen some rich kids, young people, and how they can behave. I did indeed move in certain circles in my much, much younger years. But as a result of life experience and experience I gained on YouTube, I can also tell you, and I'm very sure of myself in saying this, there is a good likelihood that 40 to 50% of the stories that are so eagerly being spun to Andrew Lani are totally false. Sad, but true. And just like 100 bricks build a wall, 100 bricks are now painting a picture of a man who likely does not even exist. A man who is now being held together by tiki-taki. I wish Andrew would take up the offer and move to Abu Dhabi. Go stay in that palace, get a ghostwriter, and start writing that book. Or 2, or 3. Also, I hope he sues Andrew Lani for every story in his books which are not true. Even if there are other salacious stories in the books which are true. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has nothing left to lose. Nothing. He's lost his job, he's lost his titles, he's lost his friends, he even lost his ability to play a sport he liked, like golf. He gets leered at when he even dares to go to church. And even worse than all of that, even his ex-wife, whom he had supported and whose debts he paid off, whom he accommodated under his roof for many, many years, have now decided to fuck off like she is the innocent victim in all of this, when her email proves that she is not. Now, I've been very clear on this right from the beginning. Bring me absolute proof that Andrew had been with a child under 16 who was a true victim lured into Epstein's seedy world. And I'll throw as many stones as you want me to. As far as proof goes, Virginia was 17 and a half by her own admission, or then in her own words, when she was put into contact with Andrew. And as far as proof goes, the other girl leaving Epstein's place with Andrew peeking around the door, those photographs, well, she was in her 20s and some diplomat's daughter. And Andrew was single, a single man. Personally, I feel a little nauseous thinking of a man in his late 40s with a tiny, skinny 17-year-old. But the facts are that tiny, skinny 17-year-old girl was a long-time professional seller of the flesh. Andrew wasn't her first, or even her second, or even her third rodeo. That is why I'm saying, release the Epstein files, so we can really see what is going on. Until those files are released, we do not know whether we should back away from some people or have empathy with others. Until the undeniable truth is out there, I think Andrew Lani should get off that particular bandwagon. He has already done his worst. Release the darn softcover with the extra chapter and get it over with. I personally heard and read so many stories on Reddit and Quora and God alone knows where else, X and Instagram and so on, about even children being brought to Andrew, prostitutes in the palace, 40 in 2 days in Taiwan. Now at what point does one go, wait, this is too much, too over the top, a little too much fiction and too little fact? Well, personally, I would go with a 40. I do not understand how someone can go out, do their job, eat, sleep, shit, travel, shower, and entertain 40 girls in 48 hours. Anyway, the one single thing which really makes me angry at Andrew and Sarah is, of course, their lying, which in my book means that they knew what Jeffrey was up to, and they did nothing and said nothing, even after he was convicted. That, to me, is unforgivable. But, of course, that is not illegal. And is that worth, say, losing your entire life over? On the one hand, I say yes. On the other hand, I say no. I've kept some secrets in my life, so I don't know. I didn't remain friends with those people, but I kept the secret, and there's one or two I'm still keeping. However, I honestly feel that Andrew Lani is now pulling every thread from the rug, even the imaginary ones. And my question is, why? Does he hate Andrew, or is he making good money out of it? The entire drama is making me feel filthy and very disgusted. The further one looks, the deeper you go, the worse it gets. And no matter what comes out about Andrew, unless he, of course, is proven to have a hand in the actual trafficking and abuse of children under 16, it is my opinion that there is a royal worse than Andrew. Now, these words I have thought for many years, but never said out loud. And the day I heard Sonia Poulton say it, it was like a weight lifted off my heart. Childishly, I thought, she said it. Now I can finally say it too. I know this is actually really a story for an entire video of its own. And maybe if you want me to, I'll do that video one day. Lawrence van der Post was hailed as Charles's spiritual mentor. Well, there were many facets to van der Post, but one facet no one wants to talk about, mainly because he was so close to Charles, Margaret Thatcher, and the Queen Mother. But did you know that after the Second World War, van der Post left the army as a colonel and worked with Lord Louis Mountbatten for a few years? Anyway, that I guess is neither here nor there. Van der Post married his second wife Ingaret Griffith in 1949. 5 years later, he was on a boat en route to England. He was entrusted with the care and as sort of guardian to a 14-year-old girl who was being sent to England to study ballet. The girl, Bonnie, returned to South Africa a few weeks after arriving in England because she was pregnant. Van der Post abandoned the mother and child and wanted nothing to do with them. However, it was discovered many years later that he did make financial provision for the baby and arranged to support her until the age of 18 via secret deed of covenant. When he finally met his daughter, he cried a few tears, but cut contact again after they met and did not even answer her letters. Van der Post was also friends with Carl Gustav Jung and was asked to be William's godfather, which in itself was ridiculous due to his age and regardless of Diana's objections. So that is more or less the story of Van der Post and his spiritual friend Charles. Then, of course, there was Savile and Ball, and you are well familiar with those stories, but do you know about the Bilderberg Group? The Bilderberg Group, or Bilderberg Meeting, is an annual private conference of 120 to 150 influential political leaders, heads of state, industry leaders, etc., from Europe and North America. Meetings operate under the Chatham Rule, meaning participants can use information which they gleaned or gathered, but cannot disclose the identity or affiliation of any speaker. On the website of the Bilderberg Group, they themselves, or then the steering committee, call themselves the guiding light in globalization, European integration, and Anglo-American relations, blah, blah, blah. But it is the goings-on when they are not in meetings, which is highly concerning, and had been spoken about for years and years and years, basically within years of them starting out, which was, I think, in the mid-50s. The drug taking, the smuggling, and the underage you-know-what. And I'm not talking about 16 and 17-year-olds. I guess there were those too, but I'm mainly talking about boys and girls under the age of 12, even under 10. Now, I'll be very, very honest with you. I personally do not have the nerve or the mental strength to actually talk about it. So instead, I shall tell you where to go and look and listen for yourselves. I'll post a few links below where you can go listen to Anneke Lucas telling you her story. The story of her mentally ill mother selling her at the age of 6 to people who trained and provided these children to satisfy the needs of creeps, to be used in blackmailing schemes, to be used in initiation rituals, and as mini spies, and all of it through the abuse of those tiny, vulnerable minds and bodies. She names a few, very few people, but she reiterates royals from all over the world and celebrities as the bigger culprits. So I looked into it. Who from the British royal family attended a Bilderberg meeting or two? Well, the answer is Prince Philip and the then Prince Charles. And then we must remember what Prince Philip said to Savile. Jimmy, put that child away. And he carried on reading his newspaper. The thing is, the odds are stacking up. Mountbatten, Van der Post, Saville, Ball, Bilderberg meetings. It is way too much coincidence to sit comfortably with me. I guess one day we will hear the truth, and how shocked we'll be. I guess once Charles passes away, like with Saville and all the others, the truth will come out. Anyway, I will be back tomorrow, and we will have a variety of chats, but I do have some Montecito news as well. So until then, please take good care of yourselves, and please stay safe. Bye.